Welcome back to the Big Cheese AI podcast. Today is October 9th, 2025, I hope. I'm here. We've just got Brandon today.
Hey, everybody.
Yeah.
Good to see you.
And we're working on our new studio again for the 37th time. Okay, don't make fun of us. But this is a really big development for us. We actually built our own podcast studio. It's in the process of being constructed, and we hope to shoot more podcasts for you in the future. Today, Brandon, what are we talking about to start? Here we're talking about it. We did something big.
We did something big. The Rally Vibe Coding Competition, which went off successfully 2 weeks ago now.
Now, tell the audience a little about what Rally is.
So Rally is a technology conference that we've had. How many years has it been running? 4 or 5?
This was the third year.
So third year, but basically where a bunch of technologists come together, they showcase their products or whatever. But this is the first time that they actually had a vibe coding competition. And so Sean was basically the champion, the cheerleader, the architect of the Rally conference. He was basically there for 30 hours straight. We had 10 teams, all ranging from, locals to, we had a couple people coming in from out of state. My team was actually composed of 2 younger lads from Rose-Hulman, which funny enough, they ended up being the same age as my son, which I thought was funny. But for me, what the craziest part about that is that we ended up having a meeting before the vibe coding competition, and both of them told me that they just installed Cursor. So they have never actually vibe coded before, and they're just normal traditional developers. And so the biggest we didn't win at all, and that's fine. But there was a huge learning lesson that I experienced from this was when my guys were coding, they were literally heads down programming just like we used to back in the day the entire time that they were there. Where the winner, which was a chap named Britton, if you actually looked at him when he was doing his, I would say the majority of the time he was actually leaning back, waiting for AI to finish, or he was talking, he was interacting with people. He literally just said, okay, AI, I'm going to let, and these kids could not let go to let the AI do their thing. And so that was a really interesting kind of experience, because I thought for sure that even if they were just traditional developers, that they'd be more comfortable letting AI kind of take charge. And they really weren't. I mean, they could not. I had to continually remind them, I'm like, let AI do this, and then they would just go and do it all by hand. But nevertheless, amazing experience. Elevate's offices were great. I mean, the whole thing everybody at Elevate was amazing. I mean, the whole thing really was a lot of fun. And now next year, I do regret not actually competing.
Right. I know I was looking at you the whole time, and I was like, man, you have to go solo next time.
Yeah. So next year I will do it. I'll do it solo. And actually it made me, I came back, and a couple days later I was like, okay, well, if I was going to do this by myself, and that's what IndieXL ended up turning into, which was basically just like aggregated Indiana news that you can choose how intense of news you want, right? So like,
nice.
I don't want to hear about any murders, you don't have to. So I ended up using that. I'm like, this is what I would have done. But yeah, that was a great experience.
Been good for the community thing.
Exactly.
That would have been great.
But you did, and I just got to give props to Sean. Again, he was up the entire night. Like I dipped at like 10 or 11 with those guys, and you were there the entire time. And then you had to get on stage in front of everybody and basically present. And you were wonderful. Like you just crushed it, dude. Like there was, and I don't know if it was sleep deprivation or what it was, but you were just up there. You were natural. I mean, it was amazing. So yeah, you did a killer job.
Thanks, man. No, so, big thanks to Elevate. So Elevate has a great marketing team, and they actually did a lot of video during this process.
Yeah, they did.
And one of the things that happened during this process is we took applications for the vibe coding competition. And so when my butt was kind of on the line on this one. And so, they didn't know, and they put a lot of faith and trust in me. And they're like, thank you so much to Erica and Matt and Toph, especially Erica and Mohammed, for putting faith in us in to do this. But one of the things that happened during the application process was I was like, well, I need good products to get built. And so I was super hard on the interviews, and we ended up getting some absolute dogs in there. The people that were in that room vibe coding for the 18 hours, there was 2 kids from Rose-Hulman that were with you, but they had just graduated, right?
Literally. Yeah.
Yeah. There was a senior and a sophomore from Rose-Hulman that were supposedly the 2 best software developers at Rose. And they were awesome. You had the kids from Louisville that had won like 4 hackathons. Zaid and I forget what his name is. He was awesome. He did all the AI stuff.
Yeah,
he was training a
model.
They trained their own model.
They trained their own model.
They literally rented NVIDIA GPUs in the cloud. They scraped a bunch of stuff off Zillow put it in a Postgres database, and then they trained it. Then they sent it out to the cloud and trained a model out so they could do natural language real estate search, which I thought was a cool use case. I actually think it was the coolest thing that was built in the time. The problem and the reason why they didn't win was they didn't get their shit compiling and working until like 6 a.m. and it took a bunch of cheerleading from me.
Right.
And I mean, not from me. I mean, I don't want to take any credit, but we were like, keep going. Like, you know what I mean? And Britton, the winner, he built like an entire system.
It's crazy.
And, he was using, I thought that what was interesting about him is he had a very like full vibe coding production process.
But that's what he does. That's like
what he does.
His agency is specifically designed to basically build 4 companies, I think, right? Like building 4 companies using vibe coding technology. So he had his whole workflow. He had it all kind of broken down. There was another team that had a similar approach, I thought, too, right?
Yeah, I mean, there was the approaches that were taken were interesting. A lot of people were trying to integrate a lot of third-party platforms.
Yeah.
Which ended up becoming a little bit of a blocker.
Right.
Because they didn't necessarily have the expertise to like integrate with like Gmail, Slack, Google Calendar.
Oh, right.
Right.
Yeah.
But one of the teams literally had built a pretty decently working proof of concept that just talked to your Slack, talked to your email, talked to your calendar. And not only talked to your calendar, like did stuff in your calendar.
We need to talk about that. That's going to be something that we want to talk about after this.
Okay. No, we won't.
Yeah.
But anyways, the vibe coding competition, 18 hours they had to build something. And it was like one team, one dream. But it was interesting to think that many tokens were burned through under one Wi-Fi.
Right.
And like it was like from a personal computing standpoint, like it held up.
Yeah.
I thought the place was gonna like get set on fire, but like
we did have the one time where the Wi-Fi went down.
PM exactly. The guest Wi-Fi we were on like completely went out, and it was like everyone was like tripping. I was like, it's exactly 8 o'clock. I guarantee that the thing just turned. It turns out that what it was. Yeah. Marley saved the day from Elevate, but it was a good experience, and I think my biggest takeaway from that was the people that are bringing structure to their process when it comes to. You don't really vibe code. And a lot of people said, what's the most overhyped term? Like on the application what was the most overhyped term you've heard this year? Almost all the good teams put vibe coding. Sure. That's the most overhyped term. Right. And so it's like
it's agentic engineering. Is really what everybody was doing.
Yes. Gosh, that's a great term. Did you just come up with that?
No. That's actually a term that people are now using. So it's kind of like where the vibe is just, you just let AI kind of go do and just raw dog its thing and come up with whatever it wants. Where then the agentic engineering is more of where you're providing it with specs, you're providing it with rules, you're kind of saying, hey, go and do this thing for me. But again, it's hard to like, yes, I do that. But a lot of times at the same time, I just get in there. I'm just like, you dumbass, go and fucking build it, do this, and just let it kind of run until it does. And so like, yeah.
I mean, it's definitely not a science yet.
No.
But the results, the winning team wrote 210,000 lines of code.
And he was using Claude Code?
He was using Cursor.
He was using Cursor?
Cursor was the winner.
That's crazy.
And the platforms that won, Vercel and Neon. Neon's tightly coupled with Vercel.
Is it? Are they?
You can like branch your preview deployments with branches of your database and blah, 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 blah. It does a lot of TypeScript generation.
Yeah.
Like, right. I mean, I feel like that's a lot of this stuff now where it's like, oh, I got a database. Let me generate my types and, you know how much I hate.
You hate TypeScript. I love it.
I'm literally in, as long as I don't have to write the code.
Right. Right.
As long as the agentic engineering is doing it for me. But the vibe coding thing was awesome. We proved that you could build, like the winning teams built stuff that was cool.
Right.
In 18 hours, they built things that, were MVPs. One of the third place team, Joe Clement, dude, he built like an MVP. I know it wasn't necessarily hooked up to all the data, but I've already introduced him to like multiple companies that want him to build that.
What was it?
He built an internally facing, like dashboard for companies to monitor their AI usage.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
Like what models are we using?
Right.
Who's making the queries?
He had the sustainability. He was in the sustainability, so he figured he would come up with a platform to basically be able to monitor. And it's actually a good call out too, because like a lot of these companies who are just going to let their users go and burn a bunch of tokens. Now, you know, a lot of them might just say, I'm going to stick with 4.5 Sonnet. And for everything, where his idea was, hey, let's actually put a kind of a proxy in the before it, and let it determine also which models would be the best to answer that question, which a lot of them are already doing. So yeah, I thought that was a really interesting approach to the sustainability and like how you could actually make that into something that companies could leverage to keep track of how many forests they're burning down.
Well, and I think that's actually a good segue to our first mini topic, which is like there's this kind of like decision that companies are going to have to make at some point, which is like, do we just literally bow to Sam Altman and use all his stuff? Or do we actually build an infrastructure to do AI at the enterprise level? And when I say do AI at the enterprise level, I don't mean build a thing that's indexing all your company's data and trying to build some magical thing that's never getting done. I'm not even talking about that. I'm talking about your prompt of record, your entry point, where people that are either using it to upload and talk to and have a conversation with AI, use documents, use unstructured data, use structured data, write code. Like, are those conversations going to happen in some sort of Microsoft-y type enterprise network, or are we just going to relent to the open AIs?
So I absolutely think what we're going to see is that, and I've seen it with both multiple clients that I've worked with, is that you have Azure and you have AWS, right? And both of them allow people to basically be able to use their models, to not have their model data be trained, to not have their data be leaked out, that they're all covered by the same service level agreements, they're covered by the same security levels and all that stuff. And so like my insurance client, they're all Bedrock or AWS. So they use Bedrock for everything. Another smaller startup that I'm working with, they're all in Azure. And so they're using all of Azure stuff for all of the models that Azure has in it. And I think that that's what we're going to see, and that these companies then are going to incorporate software that allows them to basically leverage that within the organization. So, because like right now, anybody at Farm Bureau can basically use their AI lab, which is something that I built a couple of years back, that's just using models in Bedrock, and they never have to worry about any of that data leaking. They don't need to worry about if somebody uploads something inappropriate, because it's not going just to the raw dog version of OpenAI, which, by the way, sidetrack, every time I'm interacting with it now that I want to think and work through something political, I stop and I don't do it because of them saying, yeah, we'll absolutely release your stuff to the police. And with what the current administration's trying to do with like a lot of this nonsense, I'm like, I don't even trust it now. So guess where I go to do that? Open WebUI.
Open WebUI, which is, so this is a very important distinction if you are thinking about using AI as a enterprise policy. So here's what's happening with your employees right now. They've got their own ChatGPT subscription. They've got their free. I see people that have the most common thing that I see right now is someone has just a free account on ChatGPT and they're having conversations. They're uploading your company's data to this platform.
Totally.
They're saying things about all kinds of things, personal work. They're doing all this kind of stuff, and it's all to Sam Altman. It's all to Peter Thiel, right? These guys that you do not trust. Right. And so what their kind of their moat in some ways is not necessarily their models. It's essentially their UI and their user experience. And so Open WebUI is kind of a alternative in terms of if you were going to host an AI solution, a conversational chat solution that's actually people would actually want to use, you could consider using Open WebUI. How, why, where, Brandon.
All right. So Open WebUI, and I can't remember the first name of it. It wasn't originally Open WebUI. It was some other name, and when I started using it, and it was mainly used for people who had Olama. So Olama is it originally was just on the Mac, where you could basically run large language models on your Silicon Macs. And then Open WebUI comes out with their open source that you just run in Docker or whatever that connects to Olama and allows you to select your local models and have that same kind of ChatGPT experience, right? So you've got the file uploads, you've got search, you've got you've got code interpretation, you have the artifacts. So like if you say, hey, write me a program, a Pong, in JavaScript, it will show it running in the thing. So it's got like all those.
It has actual previews and stuff.
It's got full on previews. It's got functions and toolings. It doesn't have MCPs built into it. It's on the list right now, but they've already got people who've built functions that allow you to call MCPs through their functionality. It's amazing. It's a great user experience. It works. The mobile responsiveness of it's amazing. So I actually have Open WebUI running on my Mac Mini or my Mac Studio over at MononWorks, and I can launch it on my phone. I can launch it everywhere, and I can have this completely private experience. If you've paid attention to the podcast before, I've also played around with uncensored models just for fun and profits, and those things run great on it. And that's really where I've always accessed them, is all through Open WebUI, an amazing platform. And it's built on Svelte, which is my framework of choice, which everybody makes fun of me for being a Svelte guy. But nevertheless, so it's Svelte for the front end, Python for the back end, Flask for the back end. And I now have 2 clients that I'm actually working with. One's the big insurance client that they're considering incorporating Open WebUI within the enterprise, that everybody would have access. They've got groups, they've got permissions. I can actually go and I can build a custom model that's like, so use GPT OSS. Here's my system prompt. So I'm going to create a new model that's based on Open GPT OSS, and I only want to make this available for customer service group. And here's everybody who's in the customer service group. That's the kind of shit this thing has built just out of the gate. It's free. It's open source. Amazing.
So I think that this is an important distinction. What we're talking about is AI use in the enterprise. And what most people have been talking about for the last 2 years when it comes to AI in the enterprise is they've been talking about RAG. They've been talking about which SaaS products we want to buy that are built up, that are AI tools. But they haven't talked about general purpose AI usage very much. And that is where the money's at, because that's what it all matters. You know, if Spock's not sitting next to William Shatner, you know, gut checking him every 10 seconds, right? What the fuck is the point of Spock, right? and so, but you know what I'm saying? Like that's the thing, like your companion. And if it at work, you can't just sit there and go, you know what? I think it's fine if my employees are just using ChatGPT. Like I had one of my clients and best friends who is literally technologically illiterate, but has tons of tech and tons of risk, doesn't even really understand it, right? In his business. He literally thinks that if you look it up on ChatGPT, it's 100% real no matter what. Like I was about to ChatGPT check you. And I realized I was like, oh my God. First of all, that is like literally a recent news item from today. To use ChatGPT as like your source of truth for that is disturbing, but it's to the point now where everyone thinks that they're an AI user.
Yeah. Dude, so here's 2 things that I've noticed is we have this duality. So we have on this side over here, and it's somebody that we know, obviously, is a good example of it, is that AI can do no wrong. AI is everything. I trust AI more than I trust humans. AI can do everything, and you never need to worry about anything before. You never need developers, right? Over on this side. And then I've also fallen into the anti-TikTok talk or anti-AI talk, where you've got people saying that AI is only good for stuff at your work, and you'll never find any users who are actually using it for their day-to-day life, living. And it's like, you both are so categorically wrong, you don't even realize it. Because again, the answer is always, almost always, and this is just in life, everybody, is that the answer is almost always in the middle way, right? Like you're always going to have these extremes. The answer is always going to be in the middle way. And that's what we're seeing here as well, is that you've got these people who are like AI maximalists. And I'm like, you're no different than the crypto boys who thought that crypto was going to be the end all be all and take care of everything. And then you've got these people who are saying that you don't really, there's no use for AI in your day-to-day life. Both of them are batshit crazy. And yeah.
Let's just back up to the Bitcoin boys real quick, because I've never been a believer in that shit.
Yeah.
And now what's the number one asset growth sector in the planet? Gold.
Yeah.
Because no one trusts any of this shit. Anyways, that is very, very interesting and telling. But we've got a couple other things that I want to cover. So before we get into the doom and gloom, which we don't have a lot of doom and gloom, we have a little bit. We have this crazy press release from the little known company called AMD. OpenAI to deploy 6 gigawatts of AMD GPUs based on a multi-year, multi-generation agreement. Santa Clara, California. AMD and OpenAI today announced, this was 2 days ago, announced a 6 gigawatt agreement to power OpenAI's next generation AI infrastructure across multiple generation of AMD Instinct GPUs. The first 1 gigawatt deployment. AMD's blah, blah, blah. Under this agreement, OpenAI will work with AMD and core strategic compute partner to drive large-scale deployments of AMD technology, starting with AMD Series rack scale AI solutions, blah, blah, blah. As part of this agreement to further align, AMD has issued OpenAI a warrant for up to 160 million shares of common stock.
Holy shit.
So the first tranche vests with the initial 1 gigawatt deployment. So OpenAI issued OpenAI a warrant for 160 million shares of AMD common stock. This is fucking insane.
So where's NVIDIA in this? Is this AMD positioning themselves to be able to try to scrape back some market share?
Well, let's just think through this, okay? So AMD issues OpenAI a warrant for 160 million shares of stock. Okay, let's say that stock. I just want to get a video of Brandon's anticipation to this. So OpenAI gets 160 million shares of stock that they're warranted to, that already exist from AMD. What's going to happen to the fucking value of the stock? Let's look.
Yeah, I'm curious.
Let's fucking look. I mean, now the market was down today, but let's just pretend that, and it may not happen all in one day. Okay. Oh, holy shit. What's new? It's up 36%. It was fucking at $164 a share on October 3rd. That announcement happened on October 6th. That stock is currently valued at $233 a share.
And they have how many million?
So let's just fucking do the fucking math. 160 million. 160 million. Is that how many shares they got? Okay, so I don't even know if my calculator can fucking fit all these numbers. 160. Oh shit, you can't. Okay, that's 160 million shares. Yeah, okay.
Or something
so
like that.
It was 164. It goes to e to the 10th.
So 2 trillion. Is that a trillion?
Well, let's just put it this way. Let's do it a better way. 160 million times 1.34. You just turned overnight $160 million into $214 million out of thin air. It's all horse shit, folks.
So that's how the billionaires work, right? Like, again, if you buy a company for $9 billion and you sell it for $10 billion, you've just made $1 billion.
You just made $1 billion. And you know, it's like when Starbucks hired the Chipotle CEO, right? Like their stock went up 30%, right? And so AMD's not getting paid for any of this shit. They literally are desperate and gave OpenAI equity in their company.
But I mean, they almost have to, I think. Like the positioning that, you know, like where AI is going, they can't just rely on the computer market anymore to basically be able to.
So is AMD not like a GPU type of company? Like, is that not been their thing?
I don't think it was.
It wasn't. Okay.
Yeah. I mean, now again, the AMD is at least the instruction set is licensed for the new Mac silicons are all AMD. Yeah. So they're making money there, but again, I don't think they're actually selling the chip. Like, I don't think they're making the chips. I think they're literally licensing the instruction set of AMD's, you know, whatever that chip's called to Apple. So I don't think they're making money on actual.
Oh yeah. So AMD's not even. So we're back to the whole thing that we need to remind people of. None of these motherfuckers actually build anything.
Yeah, they just license everything.
They just write a recipe.
Yeah, right.
How would you like to be how would you like to be the licensed owner of the pizza recipe?
Right.
Like, what if you were in Italy and you're like, yeah, I own Neapolitan pizza, bitch, and I get paid as fuck.
Yeah. Well, okay. So no, actually, I think this would be a good segue into what I wanted to talk about with the calendar, email, all of that with AI and Apple. Because I think I've got kind of a prediction of what Apple's going to do here. So Apple recently made an announcement that they're going to be releasing MCP access on device. So what that basically means is that they're going to make it so that LLMs can programmatically interact with all of the things that are on your iPhone and I assume on your laptop. And that's going to include being able to query, surely it's going to query the, calendar and the messages and the email and everything. And what's really interesting about this is I think that Apple, if Apple would do this, they don't necessarily need to have their own foundational large language model. It doesn't really matter, right? Then just go ahead and integrate, Claude, integrate ChatGPT, integrate these other models. Let everybody else go take all the arrows and spend the billions and billions of dollars to get these large language foundational models and just bring them into the device itself and just make the device able to be communicated with through those LLMs tools. And like that, again, they still are kind of pushing their own foundation models. They're still doing some of that. I just don't don't think that Apple will ever be able to do the amazing things that they need to do with the hardware, as well as be competitive with OpenAI or Claude, who that's all they do is focus on building these large language models. So fuck it. Don't do it. Just integrate these small models onto your device. Make sure that these big models can actually interface with using your device's MCP access. And then you've got the security levels of Apple for the MCPs. They're going to make it so it's like, hey, this large language model wants to access your email. Do you allow it? And you can be like, yeah, I do. And now all of a sudden I have access to everything and I can do all this amazing stuff without Apple having to burn a bunch of money trying to get their own large language model.
I wonder if Apple is a truly innovative company anymore.
No, they're not. I don't think they are. No, I don't think they are at all. I mean, honestly, I think really ever since, I think you saw a couple things happen that were kind of post Jobs that were still just the remnants of what Jobs was trying to do, right? But then after that, really, what kind of innovations have they done?
Well, Tim Cook's an operations guy.
100%.
And so, but you also have to kind of be sensitive to what Apple's service is. So like, it's like your product mix. It's like your marketing class 101 in your college, right? It's like your product mix. Almost all their products are just, tried and true.
Yeah.
Like base fundamentals. It's like buying a Coke.
Yeah.
Like when it first came out, it was not like buying a Coke.
It was amazing.
It was amazing.
Yeah.
But there's every single person in the world depends on those products.
Right.
It depends on them, and their investors want that cycle to continue to happen. It's enough to continue to move the stock.
Then that's all that seems like the motion is
right.
just to keep the stock going of $1 trillion company.
Yeah, I mean, it's.
Have you upgraded to 26?
No, I've heard things.
People fucking hate it. People absolutely hate
the liquid glass.
Yeah, the liquid glass. I'm kind of like, I don't love it, but I'm not.
It's kind of like expensive from a UI CPU perspective.
I'm sure. Yeah, because like they're just all these transparencies. They have a lot of calculations going on under the bubbles as things are scrolling. But I will say that we're starting to hear more and more people just basically being like, "Man, Apple's lost their way." Like this is the first time that I've really considered launching, or moving to Linux or whatever. And then you have you're a Rails guy now, DHH. And his Omarchy.
What's he doing?
So he's launched a Linux distribution called Omarchy, OOMARCHY. I don't know how you pronounce it. And it's basically he just said, okay, I'm going to take Arch and I'm going to customize and I'm going to build like the perfect development environment using Linux. And it's kind of like blowing up. And this is the first time I'm seeing like a lot of Linux noise.
I've never hated a guy more that I loved his stuff more.
Yeah. That would be a great example of him. Right. And so but people are raving about this, and it's like this window management. So every time you open up a new app, it automatically fixes it within the window. I mean, it's a highly opinionated.
Oh, doesn't do the thing where it doesn't take up all the space?
No. So I keep playing around with it, and at least once every decade, I convince myself I'm going to leave Apple and I'm going to go run Linux dedicated, and I'll do it for like 6 months or whatever, and then I end up coming back because I'm sick of fixing my computer every time I want to do something. But this, I don't know, it's like Apple is in a precarious place, I think, and now we have rumors that Cook might be stepping down as CEO. And so, but that could also be a great thing. Like if they could find somebody that could come in and start kind of like reinvigorating the creativity and the innovation within Apple versus just being like, all the innovations seem to go into the distribution and and all the operational stuff, which kind of makes sense because that's what Cook gets off to. But yeah, I think he might be leaving. And that will be weird. That'll be kind of crazy.
Well, one thing's for sure, people can't do things forever. Things change. The proposition that things never change is the dumbest thing you could ever do. Steve Jobs was never going to be at Apple forever. He was never going to be at Apple forever. But talking about change, well, it's a good segue. So there's a somewhat known human being named Jamie Dimon. He used to be the CEO of Chase. Rest in peace, Bank One.
Dude. Oh, so real quick, my grandpa bought all of his grandchildren $5,000, so $2,500 in Key Bank, but back then it was called Society Bank, and Bank One, right? And this was like in the early 80s. And so then that's when, I might have impregnated my girlfriend, and I was like, oh, we need to get married and buy a house and all that. And so I go and I look to go sell my stock so I could buy a house, $60,000, both of them. It was at its peak, and I sold it, and I ended up using all that money to put a down payment on my house. How
fucking,
privileged is that?
You privileged caramel prick. Wearing his Jenkos on the way to the fucking signing.
Shit.
But anyways, Jamie Dimon, former CEO, he thinks that there's an AI bubble coming. And I don't know if you looked at your portfolio, but it's gone up. And there's so much investment. Brian, who's sitting in the other room, he said that most of the investment in the entire country right now, it's like some number. He actually was saying it was ridiculous. He's in the data center business. He said that essentially almost all the fucking shit going on in terms of infrastructure, investment, building, that's capital right now is going into AI. And that's just building data centers. Right. And we're not talking about that, right? We are, but we're not just talking about that. And so, OpenAI's current valuation is $500 billion. $500 billion. And I think that from a moat perspective, I think it's true. From a bubble perspective, I think there is a bubble with AI because I'm thinking about a $500 billion moat. I mean, that's a moat big enough. It's got alligators and sharks. It's got tornadoes in it. Does OpenAI's moat so big that it's got $500 billion worth of fucking alligators?
I almost think that OpenAI's moat becomes almost like the 2008 collapse, where like all of the Neiman brothers and or even the automakers, right? Where the fact of the matter is so much of the company or so much of the country's technology is reliant on OpenAI, that if OpenAI goes down, like that could fuck like a ton of people.
But I don't think it does, because I don't think they're actually there yet.
Okay.
You know what I mean? I think like that's what we were talking about earlier. Like, I think that enterprises are eventually going to be like, this is a good enough model. Anthropic can give this stuff.
But think about how many startups exist just in the last 2 years because of OpenAI.
Those are all fucked in a bubble.
But that's what I mean, is that OpenAI literally could collapse the economy. Seems like it's lean on OpenAI,
and I do not. I agree with that. So Brandon's premise is essentially that there's too much riding on OpenAI's success, and if there was some sort of ripple effect or issue that called them into question as a solvent entity,
right? Which,
by the way, they don't. Who knows what's on their balance sheet? I'm sure it's awful, but they've taken on a lot of investment.
Right.
They have a huge valuation. They're raising money on that valuation. No. Sam Altman's cut from the Y Combinator cloth.
Mm.
That's not a disciplined business strategy company. That's run up your valuation so much that you exit. Every single thing with Y Combinator is valuation, sell, right? Who's going to buy a company for $500 billion? No one. And it's not like they want the valuation to go down from there, right? I mean, when Instagram sold to Facebook for $1 billion, it broke people's brains.
It was crazy.
Now it looks like fucking genius.
So what's really interesting though is now we've got OpenAI starting to make some pretty big moves. So they're launching the shopping, the Sora 2. This thing. Have you seen some of these videos that are coming out on Sora 2, dude? They are insane. So much, in fact, that if it wasn't for the watermark, you would be really hard pressed to tell that these things were actually AI generated.
So let's go back. Okay, so OpenAI right now, we can agree that they are the de facto service like top tier AI service.
So I think they're the top tier consumer AI service.
Agree. That's where where this is going, right? So OpenAI is the top tier AI service for consumers, right? But is that where the value is? Is that where $500 billion worth of value is?
I think it might be though. So because again, if you take like almost an Apple versus Microsoft back in the day, you could see that OpenAI is kind of taking the approach that we're going to provide to the consumers, and that go let Claude and everybody else deal with the enterprises. But what does that actually look like at the consumer level? Because it doesn't exist. It hasn't existed.
Well, to your point, at the enterprise level, it's plugging your model into Bedrock,
right?
Azure,
right?
Blah blah blah, right?
Yeah.
There's less value there because it's just the model. You're plugging into external infrastructure that you're not managing.
Yeah, the value is what the enterprises actually implement within the technology.
Correct.
But the technology itself doesn't have as much inherent value.
No, it doesn't. So it's a good place for them to play.
Yeah.
Right. Because you're talking about a general purpose technology like Google, like Apple. So basically, OpenAI becomes the third player in consumer tech.
Yep.
And eventually, they're either going to eat away at Google and Apple market share or create new markets that never existed.
I mean, you could see a time where Google or Apple just says, okay, enough's enough. We're just buying you. Like, we're just buying
but not for $500 billion.
But how crazy would that be, right? Again, when we watched Instagram get bought for $1 billion, we're like, there's no way. There's no way. And now we very well could have where they're going to buy them for 500 mil or 250 billion plus 250 billion in stock or whatever. So you could see that like something crazy like that would happen because I think what we're going to see is
Apple only has 55 billion. Apple has $55 billion of cash on hand.
That's it.
Yeah. So if they bought OpenAI for 500 billion, they'd have to leverage it 10x.
Oh shit.
How much cash does Google have on hand?
That's a great. So where I do what's
they've got 113 billion.
How is that?
Isn't that crazy?
That is crazy.
Well, you know what? I swear to God, Apple's cash balance has gone down.
Yeah, because they used to. I thought it was. I'm listening to iWar right now, which is a book that basically is talking about, how all the people started going after Apple for their practices of the in-app purchases and all that, Epic Games and whatnot. But I really think, though, that we're kind of at this point where OpenAI could very well end up rolling out a bunch of new things that could just, again, they're working on a TikTok, right? They're working on a TikTok competitor that will all be powered by the videos that are coming out of Sora. And what's going to happen here is, like, if you guys have ever watched any of these videos, what you realize is that, like, I could go right now and I could have Sora or VO3 generate me a video and it's going to look pretty good, but the content of it it's not funny. It's not good. It's like, but you find somebody who's actually funny, who can write comedic content, who can like come up with really unique, entertaining ideas. They can basically take those unique, entertaining ideas and now produce like these videos that are fucking hilarious. And everybody's like, well, there's no way there's going to be a TikTok that's just all AI generated. I absolutely see a day where there's a TikTok that's just all AI generated, especially with the quality that you're getting out of Sora. And that you have this ability, you're going to have these people who are just super creative. They're going to come up with killer stories and they're going to be able to leverage this. And now all of a sudden they might have a whole other angle of just this one product that's completely powered by the AI technology. So they could basically just slowly start building a fucking empire and become now the next most valuable company who's only been, around for 5-6 years.
Well, there's no doubt their brand penetration is basically complete. They've completely penetrated the entire country of the United States, at least, and probably further.
Me twice.
They've penetrated Brandon multiple times. Once they figure that out, I mean, so they have no competition when it comes to brand and adoption. So they have this huge strength, and it just remains to be seen. It sounds like, from a bubble perspective, it sounds like the bubble may be bursting around them, but it won't necessarily burst them.
It might not.
So
again, if you become big enough that you shutting down is a problem for the government, then the government very well could have a whole bunch of reasons to keep you around and to refund you if they have to. Again, we've bailed out a bunch of stupid ass companies before. Probably do it again if it gets there.
Well, last thing was, I just wanted to say, we didn't hit on enough dev stuff today, but like, I wanted to go back and think of, like, if you were working or vibe coding, building a system, working in software development right now, what's your best tip?
So my two new tips actually are Codex and Rust. So Codex, which is OpenAI's answer to Claude Code and to Cursor, amazing. Like that thing, I've actually burned out I've run out of tokens. This is the first time I've ever run out of tokens. And it was with Claude with Codex. And I was going hard for like a long time. And I'm finding that Rust is actually a phenomenal language to vibe code with, because it's so strict and it's so locked down that you can't even run it if it's not proper. And so the AI is actually really, really good at writing Rust. And so I've actually been building what I'm calling Banger, which is basically an IDE like VS Code, but just runs purely in the terminal, because I want to use NeoVim, but I'm too stupid to use NeoVim because out of sight, out of mind. So I was like, well, I just want stuff that I can click and I can point. So I've got full mouse control. I've got tabs. I've got scrolling. I've got everything that you would expect in a desktop application that's just running purely in the terminal. So I can be on my iPad connected to my Mac at work and running all my things right there. And I'm like, this is badass. So that's been a lot of fun.
As once again, Brandon has built $1 billion idea that he'll never sell. That's fucking awesome, dude.
Jeez.
No, my best dev tip is right now is it's a cursor dev tip, and it's guys, every single thing you do not rely on your conversation on the right sidebar. Every single thing you do, you need to fuck your Jira tickets, all the project documentation that you put in Google, everything, all the research you put into the initial prompt. You need to write that stuff to README files, and you need to, every single second, it needs to say, here's our project plan. Steps 1 through 7, 7.1.3, 1 point blah, blah, blah. And you just need to be constantly updating that document. And every single time you hit a milestone, you need to commit that code and push it up and just tell the AI, hey, great job. Great job. You did a great job. You're at step 1.3. You're at step 7.3. We're just going to take a break here. We're going to come back. Like literally, it loves that. It allows it to understand what its constraints are, and you use less tokens and you make more progress quicker. And that's my dev tip of the day. Let's do a quick lightning round.
All right.
Pick one startup or model and just tell me if you think it's hype. We'll go hype or no. Hype or not hype. Hype or nope.
Okay.
Hype or nope.
Yep.
Real quick. Let's go Claude 4.5. Hype or nope.
I haven't actually used it yet, but I'm hearing a lot of people are saying that it's absolutely amazing. So I would say that the hype might pan out, but I can't attest to it one way or the other just because I've never actually used it.
Seems stable. Like okay, like this is a normal model.
Okay.
That's what it seems like.
Right.
Yeah, it's very stable. Like whatever they did, they were like, let's make a stable model.
Okay. And now is that what Claude Code is actually going to be using, or is it still?
It's Claude Code. Cursor guy.
We had asked Jacob, but he's preparing for his wedding.
Yeah, Jacob's getting married. One thing that you think that you've gotten wrong over the last couple months.
God, I get so much wrong. Oh God, I have no idea. Like, I'm wrong all the time. I like to be wrong.
Yeah.
Right.
Because that's the whole point, right?
Exactly. Yeah. Like I like to have ideas and be like, no, that's the way it needs to be. And then you find out you're completely wrong and you have to change your whole perspective. So I don't know if I have anything like kind of off the cuff. I need to think about that one. I might come back next time. And
I'm going to keep throwing those at you. I think that one thing I got wrong, and I didn't get it wrong this week, I got it wrong in the long term, is the whole decoupled microservices, everything totally separate.
Yeah.
Architecture doesn't work in AI.
Oh, yeah. No, that's a good call. Yeah. The AI would almost inherently want to have like a monolith because it has full insight into everything versus a bunch of distributed systems that it wouldn't necessarily know how to do.
Why the fuck do you think I'm using Ruby?
So so that's you've been leaning now on Ruby. You're doing some more. I'm doing Rust, and I can't write Rust to save my fucking life.
No, we're JavaScript developers. We're fucking JavaScript guys, but because we're browser guys.
Right. And so Rust, though, you're digging on Rust, or I'm sorry, Ruby, and like you're finding that these LLMs are actually really, really good at writing Ruby because again, that spec hasn't changed a whole lot for the last 10 years.
And you can just write it all at once. I'm so out on the way I used to build stuff that it's like not even funny.
Yeah, that's right. Because then you were using that one that you were telling me about at the vibe coding competition.
Inertia.
Inertia. Right.
Yeah. So inertia is interesting because and somebody actually said this on Twitter the other day. They were like, REST is a waste of time. Don't build a REST API. And I was like, fuck, I'm not right now. I'm actually not doing that. I'm not building a REST API. They're like, yeah, it's just bullshit. Like, don't even worry about it. And I was kind of thinking, I was like, Yeah, what's the point? Like, you build these REST endpoints and they have fucking all this shit.
If you do not plan on having on offering a public API for your users to be able to consume your product, there's absolutely no reason for people to be doing Rust nowadays.
No, and REST.
Rust. Because you got Google GRP, you've got like all of these other, you've got Inertia, you've got all of these other kind of server to front end communication layers that you can use that you don't need any of the overhead.
And I'm kind of out on these ORM front end utilities. I am.
Right.
I don't want that. I don't want that. Like, I think that like, okay, I like the TypeScript stuff, but like, I'm still, that's too deep. The monolith is a winner because you can just spec out a template for how you want to build features and it just gets done.
Right.
And you don't have to worry about fucking all these different deployments and dependencies and things. It all just gets shipped at once. So like these.
But again, I think the reason you like it so much is because it's non-innovative. That's non-innovative technologies is what LLMs are going to be really good at. Next 20 that comes out, right, is going to have a completely different API. The fucking LLMs aren't going to be trained on it.
And that's why that's why like people like Lee Robinson like quit Vercel. Like they're constantly trying to change everything.
Right.
And it's like, well, if you're fucking constantly changing everything, you're never going to win in the AI.
Yeah. And maybe that's going to be the thing. Maybe that's going to be the thing that finally gets people to just stop, guys. Like, this thing's working. It's working great. Quit fucking completely refactoring the entire damn architecture every time, every new release, because somebody's like, oh, we could do it this way. Stop it.
Well, and that's how you kind of used to get pub, right? You'd be like, oh, we got a new API. Everyone's going to click on it. They're going to love it and they're going to download it. They're going to download the NPM update. And now everyone's like, I don't give a fuck.
Stop.
I know how to route. I know how to get data. Like, I know how SQL works.
Yeah.
So anyways, this is kind of where this is going. We're going to have some lightning rounds. We're going to have some references. We're going to do some things. We are the Big Cheese AI podcast, and we are going to analyze the fuck out of AI for the rest of our lives. And you know what? We're going to build with AI too. So if you want to get at the ground floor, what people are actually doing, actually building, you want to make investment decisions, you want to make company decisions, you want to make decisions about what you're going to do with your job or how you're going to build stuff, come to the Big Cheese AI podcast because we got some good stuff for you. We'll see you next week. All right.